Get ready for hot takes and insight from local industry experts in real estate, business, and lifestyle. He used to play ball with the Padres. He played hockey for the Lobos. Now they're crushing it in the real estate game. Together, they'll showcase the best of the Duke City. This is All About You, ABQ.
Oh, that's right. It's All About You, ABQ, Season 2. Now, the goal of the show is to highlight the best of our city's industry experts in real estate, culture, and lifestyle so that you walk away with some value and feeling inspired. Now, the way we like to do that is to answer the questions you may have or interview the guests that you like to see. So we invite you to join the conversation. You can reach out using the hashtag above or join our email list to get some timely tips about our community and real estate market. Hey, I'm Skip Adams, owner of Sold by Skip Real Estate Brokerage here in town.
I'm Grant Harvey, Vision Mortgage home loan expert.
Grant, your hair looks a little bit shorter. That's why people may not recognize you as the head coach of the University of New Mexico men's Lobo hockey team. But now Grant's absolutely crushing it in the mortgage game.
You have probably seen this haircut on HGTV's House Hunters, and he's part of the top 2% producing real estate agents in the city.
Great intro. Welcome back to the tree, the plants here for another
episode. Look how much
episode.
It's grown. They say that bamboo is the fastest growing organism besides sea plankton.
I think you got bamboozled on that fact. Here's why you're going to want to stay tuned. Zach Olson, the Albuquerque wine guy. I'm excited to introduce you to him. He's bringing a whole different energy and flair to the show.
Yeah.
So we'll do some wine sniffing. I don't even know if we're going to taste it because we're so bougie. But either way,
I'm going to swish it around.
Swish it around, spit it in the tree.
Spit on the car.
So Zach Olson's here in studio. You're going to jump into the Mortgage Minute, but stay tuned to the end of the show. It's everybody's favorites. I'll tell you. It's Skip's Tips. Grant, dude, what have you been up to, man? You're looking trim.
I feel trim, and we all know what that could be attributed to: not eating enough food and not going to the gym enough, and ditch running.
Well, I appreciate you being in studio today. I know you're fighting back a little bit of a stomach bug. And I rolled into the studio, and he's just hunched over, sweating, chucking Pepsi AC out of a bottle like a hobo in the dumpster.
Yeah, and speaking of hobo in the dumpster, I think I'll just top it all off with some wine and wash down all the stomach acid. That'll be good.
No, I had a pretty wild weekend. We explored, I was telling you a little bit about it, but we explored the East Mountains of Albuquerque. So ever since the pandemic, people have been fleeing city living and looking for, call it greener pastures. Right outside Albuquerque city limits, you'll find towns like Cedar Crest, Sandia Park, which are just on the other side of the Sandia Mountains. And what you get out there are these fantastic views of the trees, different landscape, different elevation, different weather patterns. But I had a buyer in town, and we were looking at some really cool properties. You can get an acre, but this is where people, I think, in the East Mountains is having a little bit of a renaissance, a little rebirth out there. People are really, leaving the city and finding these acre homes like surrounded by trees.
Yeah, we have a pretty cool customer, and he's coming in from Texas, I believe, and I was kind of surprised. I really am enjoying his search because this is some pretty neat stuff. I mean, how much is this one going
for? It's like $600,000. So you look at those
That's
views.
incredible.
Yeah, and you can have animals out there if you want to have an alpaca farm or whatever it is. Get some donkeys, but just a cool change of scenery. So I had a good time just exploring the East Mountains outside of Albuquerque and just a different lifestyle out there. But just calling attention to the fact that people are really starting to rediscover the mountains here, not just for the skiing, which is hit or miss, but it's just a different lifestyle.
Well, these are neat. These are neat properties. I thoroughly enjoy myself when watching some of Skip's house searches, and I believe this one should be incredibly fun for you.
Yeah,
because it goes searching for houses that fall into your interest or your pipeline. Like I think that's really fun to have work that in your experience for finding someone else a house, and really shop for a house that you would buy yourself and you could really advocate for.
That's one of the fun things, because Ashley and I have been searching for a house for the last couple of years, and obviously with the addition of Adeline to the family, we're going to need some square footage. So then you just got to start worrying about schools and just grown-up stuff. It's like, am I in the right area? But
what
either
are the
way,
schools like out there? What high school would they go to?
I think Manzano.
God, I've always joked around. Who's actually been to Manzano or Del Norte besides Tom Kite? Like, who goes to these schools? I never met anybody. Do they all just die their senior year?
Yeah, they do.
Okay, well, that's the end of that stand-up joke. And speaking of people dying in their senior year, let's go get into our Mortgage Minute. That was a terrible segue. I will do better next week. But I wanted to talk about something that seems to be everyone's nemesis. It's the feared underwriters, and probably one of the most misunderstood entities in the mortgage process. And I'll tell you, sometimes they live up to their reputation. Some of them can be grumpy, some of them aren't cheering for a loan. But I want to inform you, before loans actually get to an underwriter's desk, there's what's called desktop underwriting. Desktop underwriting is a software, and when you inject numbers and years employed, it actually spits out an outcome, approved or not approved. So a lot of times people think that underwriters have it out for them. Underwriters don't have too much of a say nowadays because everything is so automated. So they may be able to take some liberties and count what cash you have or what income you might have or what assets may count towards your down payment. But for the most part, underwriting has become so automated that there's not much for human discernment. So there's my recap for underwriters, and they're not such bad people that we think, but yeah, it's mostly computerized now. That's our Mortgage Minute.
Yeah, the dreaded underwriter. It's like the man behind the curtain in The Wizard of Oz. Nobody's ever met an underwriter. I never
No, they must have gone to Monsanto.
Dying their senior year. No, underwriters are always just like, nobody speaks to the underwriter. Like it has to go through a chain of command before an underwriter will even look at it.
That's correct. I should have mentioned that too. There is a lot of times my customers will say, I want to talk to the underwriter. Well, that's impossible. You can't. There's always supposed to be buffering or liaison, like myself, to handle the phone calls between each other. But you're never going to go get a hold of one and straighten them out. It's just not how it works.
It's kind of like an appraiser too. Like you want to let me call the appraisers. Like you can't. Nobody talks.
Oh
to the
yeah,
appraiser.
he's at Manzano right now. Can we take a message?
Yeah, we're waiting for him to finish his SATs. He never showed up.
Oh man, this is a funny.
Here's why you're going to want to stay tuned to the next segment. Zach Olson, the Albuquerque wine guy, is going to be in here to drop some knowledge on us and kind of improve our palates when it comes to the finer things in life. So yeah, it should be a good segment.
I think my brother used to be the Albuquerque wine guy. When I beat him so bad at video games, he would just cry in the living room. That was an ultimate wine guy.
That was his gamer handle?
Albuquerque wine guy. All right, well, we'll look forward to a second segment here.
Yeah, stay tuned. This is UABQ.
Welcome back.
Welcome back to UABQ, sponsored by Pepsid AC this week. I'm Skip Adams, owner of Sold by Skip Real Estate Brokerage here in Albuquerque.
Yeah, Grant Harvey, Vision Mortgage Home Loan Expert.
Now, again, the goal of the show is to highlight interesting people that have moved to Albuquerque and figure out their backstory and what they love about living here, working here, and playing here. We're joined by Zach Olson, the Albuquerque wine guy, who's got a fun backstory, but also brought some treats for us. So, Zach, welcome to the show, my friend.
Guys, thank y'all so much for having me.
Dude, let's talk about the pink elephant in the room, though.
Yeah, the tracksuit. The tracksuit, yeah. I'm very, very happy that y'all were game to allow me to wear this tracksuit on the show. Yeah, I started this because I had a rosé tasting in Santa Fe, and a friend sent me the link to this tracksuit on Amazon and said, should we wear these for the pink wine tasting? And like, you never say no to a question like that. So
Yeah,
it kind of
it's
has a life of its own now at this point.
It's
but
fire, dude. Fire fit. And
thanks, dude.
Okay, there he is. Up
Look at
there.
him. Just
There, wow.
spinning
They got
drinks.
the Instagram photos up and everything.
Oh yeah, no, we pay the bills. We got
I
electricity.
like that there were two available or more.
So
you guys
that
came
guy
in
on
the set.
my left, or no, on my right in the left in the photo is Ben Sobel. He's a great dude, good friend, and he also works for the same company that I work for, Favorite Brands. And yeah, slinging wine in pink tracksuits.
Well, it looks like you've definitely made a splash here in the community, and I know you've only been here for a couple of years, but grew up in Wisconsin.
Yep.
Moved to Yosemite, which is let's talk about Yosemite. It's just a fantastic little valley.
It's
just
a dream.
magical place.
That place is amazing. Yeah, I moved there, basically for rock climbing. I was kind of like a rock climbing bum, and I figured that the best place in the world to live would be Yosemite Valley. So moved there and had a couple of amazing years there rock climbing, but that's kind of where the wine bug caught me. California. Sure. Yosemite's right in the middle of a lot of really amazing wine regions there. So on the weekends I would, visit like Napa, Sonoma, Lodi, Murphy's, Paso Robles, all these wine regions, and moved there for rock climbing, but then left,
Left to follow the
a
grapes.
wine nerd, yeah.
Well, let me ask, and I don't want to cut it too far into what you may talk about in the future, but were any of those wines prevalent in your presentation to people that you had found out from being there firsthand? Was there anything in that region, any wines that popped out
that stood out in particular?
From personal exposure that you probably ordinarily wouldn't have come across?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. So Napa Valley is known for its really big styles of Cabernet Sauvignon, and I had a lot of really good wines there for sure in Napa Valley, but one of the better wines that I had out there was from a producer called Frog's Leap, and really amazing producer, all organic, like they're really doing things the right way. But I visited their property, took a whole tour, and then at the end of the tour, Evan was the guy's name. It's funny that I still remember that. He brought me into the Frog's Leap cellar and had me taste a bottle of Cabernet Sauvignon from 1994. And that to me was sort of my eye-opening, experience. Like, oh my gosh, wine is many things, but when you have an old bottle of really, really well-made Cabernet Sauvignon, it just,
There's different levels
you tasted
to it.
the wisdom in the wine,
Okay,
and it really. Yeah, so since then I just kind of like devoted my life to wine.
So when you say you devoted your life to wine,
She is taker.
You don't just enjoy it. You are a sommelier. So talk a little bit about the process of becoming a sommelier, or how long did it take? And
yeah, I mean, it's hard to pinpoint exactly when the process started, because I think it was a slow build, but the process of becoming or getting any wine certification for that matter, you really gotta, it's like taking an undergraduate into a master's, into a PhD, into some type of next level of expert at that point. So like really becoming a somm and a wine professional, you have to study. You really do have to devote your life to it. I've spent hours and hours with flashcards, and you just basically have to know every single wine region, why the climate and the grapes create a wine in that area, and then blind tasting too is part of getting wine certification. So you have to be able to have a couple of wines in front of you, poured already before you enter the room, and then you sniff them, you look at them, sniff them, taste them, and then give your best guess as to the grape varietal, where that grape was grown, where that wine comes from, and and then the year that grape or that wine was made.
Well, let's do wine 101. When you talk about varietals, what? So for somebody that's never even had wine before, I mean, let's start at the very basics.
Can I open? I have the wine. Let's open.
Let's do it.
Yeah,
for sure.
Let's do it.
But talk about what's the difference between a varietal? I mean, is a varietal a grape, a vine? I mean, what is it?
For sure. I appreciate that question, because sometimes working in wine, I feel like you can just get bogged down in the. You talk to everybody who's a wine professional.
Yeah, the lingo is very.
Yeah, for sure. So I appreciate you translating that a little bit for me. So a grape varietal is like the type of grape that you would be drinking in the wine. So in America, we label our wines based on the grape varietal. So examples of grape varietals would be Pinot Noir, Cabernet Sauvignon, Sauvignon Blanc, Merlot, all of these different varietals. Now in France, they, for the most part, label their wines based on geographic designation. So you kind of have to know another layer into the
So
French.
back up. So in America, we name the wine after the grape.
Yeah, so we'll label it based on the grape.
So the wine's named after the grape, but in France, you're saying it's named after the region.
Right. So this is a Sancerre, which is a French wine region, but the grape is Sauvignon Blanc. So, excuse me, if this was an American wine, we would just have labeled it Sauvignon Blanc. So, so being a knowledgeable wine consumer does, like if you're buying French wine, it does help to know that Sancerre will be Sauvignon Blanc. White Burgundy for the most part is Chardonnay. Red Burgundy for the most part is Pinot Noir.
What is Ron Burgundy?
Ron Burgundy is probably an American wine producer, but I've never had any of those wines. But I would be the first to
San
try
Diego
some
region.
of those. Yeah, right? Yeah. There's some wine coming out of that area, but
Well, that's cool. Okay, so talk a little bit more. So we're opening the white.
Yeah, so this is a Sancerre. So I actually brought this wine when we figured out that I was going to come on the show. I know that y'all do the cheesy, or like you have
the cheesy puffs.
cheesy puffs, right?
Yes.
So this would pair perfectly.
I hope that tears through America with like the influence from Canadian influence.
Dunk your Cheetos in white wine.
Yeah, so they are puffs. The cheesy puffs.
They're Cheetos, basically. They're like.
Are they crunchy or
They're
are
very
they
crunchy.
airy?
They're hard.
No,
they're like
crunchy.
baked.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Because if it was airy, I would have brought champagne to pair with it. Sure. But the crunchy, I figured I would bring the Sancerre. But we don't. Are there cheese?
Well, dang it! I wish I would have known. I
we
will
have
go.
cheeses in studio?
I'll go import some more. I feel like
we
blew
blew
it
through that bottle. So talk a little bit about the way to pour wine. Is there a specific technique that goes along with it?
I guess there are for sure. Like in order to get wine, proper wine certification, you have to prove that
Am I passing this down, or you?
If you want to, sure, yeah.
Well, no.
Actually, if you don't mind, I'm going to smell that first.
Here.
I just want to make sure that the wine's not corked before we start sniffing it. Not that people at home would know, but
Could you sniff out a corked bat in baseball?
Oh, I wonder. Well, what do you do to
Skip,
cork
you
a
used to
bat?
cheat at baseball.
Yeah,
What'd
tell
you
us
put in
about
your
all
bat?
those times you got busted.
All your home runs.
I never hit any home runs, so it doesn't matter.
Okay, it definitely wasn't corked.
Dude, you played for the Padres?
I was not very good, but yeah, back in the day, I was.
What do you mean not very good?
He was a good fielder. Well, obviously, he didn't cork his bat, so he wasn't hitting any dingers.
No. I'm not very good at baseball and never had the opportunity to play for the Padres. I feel like you were pretty good to be able to make it to the.
Well, it was a lifetime ago. So I was a minor league baseball guy, but so we bounced around a little bit, and in fact, that's where I met my wife, was in San Diego, and so she's a California transplant as well.
Yeah.
And she's adapting
cheers,
well.
y'all.
Cheers. Let's hope this stays down.
Thanks for So you're dealing with a stomach bug right now.
Yeah, this is to cure it, right? Let's give some false claims as to
wine-
what your
This
wine
is actually
can do.
snake oil.
Wine can. Oh shoot! I just touched my mic.
It's okay.
That's fine.
It won't.
Wine cures a lot of things, and I've never tried to have it cure a stomach bug.
All
So
right,
you
well,
could
then
be
we'll
the
do
test.
a follow-up,
You could be the
or I'll
test.
be a Manzano senior.
Yeah, we're doing CPR on you.
You
okay.
were talking about proper ways to pour and all of that stuff. So
What about holding it? Am I
I'm supposed to hold it to stem
grab
so you don't warm it up, right?
Yeah. So all of these, there are these rules that come with wine.
We're big into
For
rules
sure.
on this show.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if
Okay.
we followed any, but we're big on hearing them.
Yeah, but the thing is, I don't really like I've proven that I can.
Listen, you're living outside the box in that suit.
I don't like all the rules. I feel like people have an idea of wine that it's kind of like gatekeepy and exclusive and bougie.
Snobby, right?
It doesn't need to be snobby at all.
I feel like the people that do that are like want to have a cut above or kind of like look at you scorningly like, oh, you didn't know that? And I'm like, no, I don't. And I'm not going to learn if you keep treating me like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it doesn't allow. And so that's kind of my journey into wine as well. I was allowed the opportunity to not be bougie, to make a bunch of mistakes. You need to have some mentors to bring you into that community for sure. But my mentors were, amazing people that allowed me to explore it in my own way.
Okay.
And I feel like a lot of I just don't like the gatekeeping. It's not exclusive. It's really just fermented grape juice. And it's beautiful and it's artistic and very scientific, and I don't mean to downplay the thing that I devoted my life to. But
It makes you more
also,
relatable, though.
it doesn't need to be.
Yeah.
But generally I hold the glass by the stem. I think you would do that. This is a white wine. You generally want to drink white wines chilled, and so if you have your hands on the bowl of the glass, it
gotta
will
cup the bowl.
It'll kind of warm up the wine a little bit, but
Am I looking at it correctly?
yeah, you
Okay.
can look up at it.
Yeah,
you can look down
you actually
at it.
want it. Yeah. Well, we don't want to look down on it because we
It
were
gets
just
sensitive.
talking
Yeah, it
about
gets real sensitive.
Right,
Sorry,
yeah,
bud.
yeah.
This varietal.
Okay.
This
yeah,
is
I
a
think I've got
very
it.
delicate varietal for sure. So this is Sauvignon Blanc from Sancerre.
Okay.
Yeah.
What would this set you back? How much is this
Let's see.
baby?
Probably on the shelves. This would be about $30.
Oh,
a $30 bottle, and for me, that's really the sweet spot. You know, you can find really great wine, and we should talk about places to buy those bottles of wine at some point.
Yeah.
But you can find great bottles of wine in that like $25 to $35 price point. This is, I believe, the Favorite Brands. That's the Favorite Brands Instagram. Yeah. So it's showing.
Are these all local or?
So no. So the Favorite Brands is the distribution company that I work for. We're in both Texas and New Mexico. So the portfolios are a little bit different, just based because each state has its own different liquor laws. Mm-hmm. The Texas portfolio is, I feel like, a bit more beer and spirit focused. And the New Mexico portfolio, which I'm really grateful to be able to sell, has a lot of really cool niche wines. We partner with a lot of great wine importers that are bringing in like great French wine from all over the world, but a lot of really great Burgundy, some great Champagne.
So it sounds like you're well traveled as far as tasting, wines from Napa or from France.
Yeah.
But talk a little bit about where the oldest vines in our region are from. I mean, they're from New Mexico.
Yeah,
we have some of the oldest vines. What's your take on, kind of the wine culture here in Albuquerque?
Yeah,
tasting rooms, stuff like that.
That's a great question. In terms of the local wine, so New Mexico has a really long wine tradition. Spaniards smuggled illegally grapevine cuttings from Spain, of the País grape or the Mission grape, and they planted them in Socorro, or I think just around Socorro, somewhere around there in the 1600s. And it was
There's
the first
a good example of rules being stupid. Otherwise, we wouldn't have our grapes there.
Exactly. There's so many great stories of people illegally transporting grapevines to grow them in a potentially better place.
Okay.
But yeah, so the wine story here goes back a really long ways, but the wine culture here I feel like is very interesting. So the scene here is growing for sure.
Would you say it's up and coming? Because I know, Albuquerque in itself, when you talk about places like we're talking about cocktail bars like, what's Tom and Cindy's
Copper Lounge.
Our
best friends. What's their place again?
Yeah, who are we talking about?
Yeah, Copper Lounge.
Guy had one sip of
spot.
wine. But to speak to that, the cocktail lounge is up and coming still in Albuquerque.
Yeah.
We're starting to get, obviously we're big into the brew scene. So,
yeah.
I know there's a couple different really cool wine tasting spots in town, but I think we're still up and coming and have a lot of ways to grow.
Well, let's talk about the places that we could get these featured wines.
Yeah, definitely. So, yeah, part of that growing, I do think the wine scene is growing, and I think it's going to grow to something that is really, really cool. And it has its own character and identity right now. It's very Albuquerque. It's a bit underground, a bit grunge, a little bit grimy, but the wines are very strong, and
cool.
It's very cool. So I definitely think one of the best wine shops in town is Jubilation. The Zonskis have been there for decades, and it's the state of New Mexico's hometown liquor store, and I love working with the Zonskis. They just brought on a new wine buyer for their program there, and her name's Jessie. She's very sharp, and I'm really excited to see where that wine program goes. In terms of places that you could go where you could drink a bottle and get some food as well, Jubilation's not offering any food, but
Jubilation's located on Lomas?
It's like kind of near the university area.
Yeah, Lomas and Carlisle.
Yeah.
It's like the 5-point intersection right there.
I like the inside of it. It reminds me of the old school. Kelly's Liquor a long time ago, but it has the cool cement floors, and it has that ambiance of like it's been around for a while, and they haven't tried to revamp it and make it into something.
Yeah,
it looks
it's
pretty
been around for a long
genuine.
time. Yeah, and very down to earth. The Zonskis are, and they're great folks. If you're trying to go out and get a bottle of wine or enjoy a nice glass of wine from a good glass selection at a restaurant, I think that there are a handful of places that I send people. I think Campo at Los Poblanos, the restaurant at the inn over there, is is pretty much the pinnacle and the peak of fine dining in Albuquerque. And Dylan Stormont, Graham over there that run the wine program, both dear friends and really sharp. And they already have a great program, but they're continuing to improve it. Other spots around town, Farm and Table, another good restaurant, great wine list. James is running the wine program there. And then new spots are popping up, which is part of why it's so exciting as the scene grows. But Central Bodega, the new restaurant in Nob Hill, yeah, they're not even a year. They haven't even been open for a year, but they have a really great wine list and great reserve wine list too. That you should definitely ask your server about if you go there. And Little Bear in Nob Hill too has.
I'm learning a lot. I have not heard of any of these.
Yeah, I don't know what's up with us. Well,
you
had 2 kids, and so you've been kind of downtrodden in terms of being able to get out. I don't know what my problem is. I don't know.
Do they serve Pepsi there?
We could we could work something out. Actually, that's not a bad idea. A glass of wine and Pedialyte for the potential hangover.
Yeah, for your
just
to-go
both
cup.
At the same time.
Yeah. What is another? What would you say something near? We're mountain guys, right? We all like the mountains. We talked about that. We're something off of that has a mountain view. Can you think of anything offhand?
Talk about East Mountains. Is there anything over there?
Where you can drink a glass of wine.
Yeah.
And with a mountain view. Well, I mean, if you sit on the patio at Campo at Los Poblanos, you get a view of the mountains, and you can see the lavender and the field.
I haven't been there enough. I like it there.
It's such a vibe.
Yeah, that's a good place.
It's such a vibe out there. You should
definitely
go. And the food's amazing too. I have nothing but great things to say. Or you could just, again, doesn't need to be bougie. Take a bottle, go get a bottle at Jubilation, take a bottle up to the mountains, and then overlook the city.
You know what I've noticed through talking to this and a conglomerate of people who come in and out of here, how as a society we went and couldn't wait to get away from the country and go be city people, and then all we want to do is go back and have a country setting. It's strange. Within 150 years, that's all we want to do is go relive that
just
kind
unplug.
of experience.
Yeah.
Well, I think this has been very fascinating. So, what's the difference between this
Look at you. That's why you can't remember Tom and Cindy's business.
This is
I told you.
You like this. This is Sauvignon Blanc, huh?
Well, I came to drink.
He will still not even give you a glass. Just we went bottle.
So we talked about the first bottle.
Yeah.
What's the difference between the second bottle?
So different
we don't
grape,
need to crack it, but
different grape, different country, different style, both white wines.
What is it, Gavi?
Yeah, so Gavi, this is an Italian white wine. Gavi is in typical old world style. Gavi is not the grape. Cortese is the grape. Gavi would be the region.
I've never heard of a Cortese grape.
Yeah, right. It's a little niche. I wanted to bring something because we generally most know about Sauvignon Blanc, but I wanted to bring something that was also a little bit out of the box a little bit, and then also didn't even think about this, but we were just talking about Central Bodega, that new restaurant in Nob Hill. This is one of their new wines that they're pouring by the glass. So if
what is this? What is this bottle run?
On the shelves at Jubilation, it would probably be like 22 or 23.
I'm impressed. I was, me not being a wine guy, I'm impressed at the price point of this.
Yeah.
Because it means everyone could be a participant. Again, I think sometimes you herald these wines as, I can't afford to drink wine like that. Everything is
for sure.
$82, right? And it doesn't have to be the case.
No, definitely not. I mean, it would be cool, right, if we were drinking a $100 bottle of wine right now as well. But the quality on these wines,
I wouldn't be able to discern.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was saying. The sweet spot. So some of these wines, really like at $20 to $30. Sometimes if you're spending $100, $150 on a bottle of wine, of course it's probably an amazing wine. Yeah. But you are potentially paying for things other than the wine. You're paying for the branding potentially.
Potentially a first date with a girl you probably didn't think you had a shot with.
Yeah, she's probably
you're trying to
you're trying too hard. You can't duplicate this for subsequent dates.
Yeah, I mean on a first date, don't order over $100 bottle.
Don't shoot the moon.
For sure.
Zach, this is a pretty informative session, man. I really appreciate you coming on. So we're going to have links to your Instagram as well as on the show. Is there any other events or any other places you want to promote or plug? Or?
Yeah, let me think here. I mean, I always do. I'm doing tastings around town all of the time. I can't even really think of the next time. Occasionally, I'll do a guest sommelier spot at restaurants around town. I also wanted to point people in the direction of this sounds like this is quite the plug, but of this cheese and wine shop called Mouse Hole. I really wanted to, and one of the new places. It's actually, well, where are we? It's right down the street. It's on Broadway.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah. So as a Wisconsinite, you know,
Yeah.
I have like a honorary degree
Cheesehead.
in cheese
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
But I really
like
like the folks that run that cheese shop.
You
too.
do have a little cheese head going on right now.
Oh yeah, it's like sharp cheddar.
Yeah, you could walk into the Packers game and be all, "Don't he did it."
Yeah, for sure.
This is great. I love our interviews in this last season. We've just been chatting away,
Well, it's
making
fun,
some new friends.
That's the idea, you know, promoting people that have moved to Albuquerque, but also opening up different doors for us and for the viewers to bring some light to businesses here in town. So Zach Olson, appreciate you having some time with us here, and you know, we look forward to having you at an event when we have one.
Yes, we will definitely implore your knowledge.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This has been
Of
fun.
course. Here's why you're going to want to stay tuned to the end of the show. It's everybody's favorite. It's Skip's Tips, talking about the worst mortgage advice that homeowners should not listen
Just
to.
every segment I've ever done just comes on.
Just a highlight reel. Stay tuned. This is all about you, ABQ.
Welcome back. It's our last segment of UABQ. Thank you for our guests coming on. We've learned a lot, and Dave Olson, we appreciate your time here. Now we're going to get into Skip's Tips.
That's right, it's Skip's Tips. Anything that saves us time, makes us more money, allows us to have more fun, whether that's in real estate or real life. In this Skip's Tips, we're talking about the worst mortgage advice that home buyers actually listen to. Number one, get your mortgage from the bank that you do your accounting with. Turns out shopping around for mortgages and going through mortgage brokers, you're might gonna get a lower rate and a better deal. Just because you bank at Chase and it seems more convenient, doesn't mean that's the best option for you. Don't bother getting pre-approved for a home loan, you're just looking around. Getting a pre-approved upfront is gonna uncover any potential speed bumps, any credit issues that you need to be made aware of prior to writing offers and shopping for a home. You should always just go with the lowest rate. Lowest rates sometimes come with strings attached, massive fees up front, maybe even an adjustable rate that you weren't aware of. So just because it's the lowest rate, maybe take a closer look. You should just borrow as much money as you're approved of. What's the worst that could happen? Yeah, the bank is gonna lend you up to $500,000, but that doesn't make it a good idea to borrow that much. Keep in mind, there's always hidden costs associated with home ownership. So whether your HVAC system goes out, you need a new roof, these are all unexpected expenses that you don't wanna have if you have a massive payment that's already maxed you out. So these are some tips that you need to be made aware of if you're shopping for a home loan. Share this with a friend and tell them Skip said so.
Those were really good tips. This is something that I firmly
We should do a
agree
whole segment about Skip's tips.
What I do really appreciate is not going to the same bank that you do a bank account with. A lot of people are so steadfast on going to their Wells Fargo, and like the rates aren't better, but some people feel so secure by being able to touch the bank's walls and seeing the guy who's giving you a bad rate. So I heavily invite shopping. For the most part, though, you can have the lowest rates and great service. That's a Grant Harvey guarantee.
And that's an advice you can stand by. So thank you to Zach Olson, the Albuquerque wine guy, for being here. Great episode, man.
Yeah, that was a great chat, man. We make so many friends on this show.
How's your stomach feeling after
Not
just chugging
good. I didn't drink any of that wine, and because I didn't want to have our first upchuck on stage.
Actually, it would have been our second. Remember the hot chili challenge. Great episode. We'll see you on Wednesday nights and Sunday mornings here on the Education Channel. Again, this is all about you, ABQ.
You're watching You, ABQ.